Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to Symbiosis 5 weekend. We are very privileged to have one of our mentors, Marina Soria, speak on the art of textile as language in her work. Marina, over to you.
Thank you, Judith. Hi, thank you for coming. And I will start by sharing my lecture. Let's see how it goes. Can you see?
Yes, we see small thumbnails.
Yes, that's the idea. Okay, so this lecture is called From Textile to Text. What would have happened if the Spanish had not conquered America? And I will take you slowly through my story, but I will read it because if not, I go all the way through and I won't say the important things and will say a lot of nonsense. So let's try it this way, and then you stop me at any point when you want to ask any questions. I'm gonna do this. Okay. What would happen if the Spanish had not conquered America? Imagine a world where Mayan codices were never burned, where Inca quipus evolved into a fully recognized written system. This quipu, in particular, from the Museo de Arte Chileno in Santiago de Chile, has 586 strings with 13 levels of information and stores 15,024 data. Do we know what data is? No idea. Imagine a world where Andean textiles were understood as texts telling stories as intricate as an illuminated medieval manuscript. An explanation lies under each of the motifs of these ponchos. The one in the center shows the Andean cross, known as chacana. Remember this. I'll show you later on where does it come from. So this is the chacana. The remnants of pre-Hispanic civilization reveal that language has never been confined to the written word alone. Just as cave paintings convey the beliefs and experiences of early humans, and Egyptian hieroglyphs encode an entire world view, textiles in the Andes were more than decoration. They were a communication system. Argentine historian Ruth Corcuera beautifully expresses this when he writes, "Textile art will be the means to tell us, through color and design, that the world can be read through symbols, as in a written text. In the great American cultures, these symbols were a kind of lingua franca, or general knowledge, and a major art with many roles, among them to express more than words can tell." A new approach to writing in the Andes. The history of writing is often told through alphabets and materials like papyrus, parchment, and paper. But what if the code wasn't alphabetic, but textile based? Can we consider textiles as precursors to writing in the Andes? This question has been in my mind for years, ever since I decided to include a textile in my book Textile Text from 2010, where a calligraphic study of the empty space blends with the motifs and colors of an Andean textile. That was the beginning of my curiosity about textiles. Let me share with you this book. Okay. It does not run. Well, yeah, I'll show you. I'll show it later on there. In 2016, I created the course Weaving Words, or Tejiendo Palabras, which proposes experiments to merge both disciplines, calligraphy and the textile arts. In 2023, I attended a workshop by Ewan Clayton. What Have I Learned from Burgard was the name of the course, where he explained how scripts evolved over time, moving from rigid forms to form fluid and cursive styles. And Ewan said, I wonder how Mayan glyphs might have developed into a cursive script. This question made me consider not the Mayan perspective Ewan was referring to, but rather the Andean perspective with the Chavin culture, a culture that goes around 1,000 years before Christ, on whose myths and beliefs the Inca Empire was founded. For years, I have studied Andean textiles, captivated by their technical sophistication and symbolic depth. These textiles are not just artifacts of culture identity, they are knowledge systems. A small cap or a woven mantle can encapsulate an entire world view. So now, remember the Andean cross I mentioned before? It depicts the floor plan of their religious building and analogously has the same religious meaning as any other present religious symbol. The one wearing the cap was dressed with the idea of the whole universe. So in this little cap, there's a story and the beliefs and most of the things they lived for. And the chacana was a representation of the Andean mountains as well. So that's the plant. In the Andes, textiles were not mere ornaments. They established hierarchies, narrated stories, and served as sacred offerings. They were considered living beings. This belief was so ingrained that scissors did not exist in pre-Columbian America. Cutting a textile was seen as mutilation. Fabric was not just an object, it was an entity. The Incas valued textile more than gold or silver. A finely woven piece was a tribute fit for an emperor. The geometric patterns of this tocapu, which is the name of this kind of poncho, for example, formed a communication system that remains undeciphered, a woven logographic script of mathematical precision. Textile techniques in the Andes progressed from embroidery to tapestry weaving and made a shift to abstraction. Wari weaving is known for its bold graphic design with abstract figures of vertical ribbon-like forms of greater complexity. Andean textiles are the products of a community in which communication, art, form, and function were still effectively integrated. And if you see the sketch made from the textile, here you have a character, and the character is a divinity. So here you can see his eye and his mouth on the side, and later on you will see this mouth and this kind of eye, and he is carrying two kind of bars, or it's called bacos in Spanish, but I don't have the word in English. And if you can see these two characters, when they come to abstraction, you just see parts of it because this guy is kneeling with one knee. And here you can see the movement of the knee when it turns into abstraction. But this takes a long time to be able to understand these shapes because, as I said, it's very complex. Parallels between calligraphy and weaving. In my attempt to blend both disciplines, I found out that calligraphy could be a metaphor for weaving. Strokes or letters like stitches and text pattern like a textile. So I developed a series of artworks combining both of them. This artwork is called textile printing or grafía textil and plays the mentioned metaphor. To strengthen the concept, I wrapped the frame with a thread as if it were a loom. Okay, hold on, I skipped one. If the Spanish have never conquered America, would these codes have evolved into a fully recognized script? Could we today read Andean textiles as fluently as we read medieval manuscripts? While we may never know the answer, the key lies at the intersection of art, communication, and memory. As in calligraphy, every stroke or every thread is a link in the transmission of knowledge. It is the artist's prerogative to claim part of the reality. So here you can see my alphabet based on this textile. In Chavin cosmology, art was not an individual expression, but a collective language encoded in signs. Their imagery reflects a world in constant transformation, where the boundaries between human and divine were blurred. Under the influence of hallucinogenic plants, artists reach altered states of consciousness that shaped their designs, intricate, interwoven patterns that embodied what we now call horror vacui, fear of the empty space. Within this complexity, we find feline figures with eccentric eyes and sharp fangs, symbols of power and transformation. But beyond the image itself, there lies a message we have yet not learned how to read. One of the textiles that sparkled my curiosity comes from the Chavin culture, as I said, 1,000 years ago before Christ. It is a cotton piece measuring 116 by 70 centimeters, painted with clay pigments using rudimentary tools as fish bones and twigs. These textiles, possibly displayed in ceremonial temples, served as portable carriers of cultural and spiritual knowledge. So that's me in the Museum of Prehistoric Art in Chile, studying that textile. Before paper became a medium for writing, it was fabric. Across different cultures, texts have been wrapped, bound, embroidered, or decorated with textiles. In the Andean tradition, fabric did not just carry information, it was information. Just as a weaver interlaces threads with precision, a calligrapher crafts letters with mastery. Both disciplines require patience, manual dexterity, and a deep aesthetic sensibility. They are a perfect balance between creation and mastery, which takes years of patience and hard work to achieve. It's not coincidence that the words text and textile share the Latin root texere, meaning to weave. The language we use to describe writing is filled with textile metaphors. We spin tales, weave narratives, unravel meanings, interlace your thoughts, stitch words together, knit a story, embroider your ideas, sew the seams of meaning, loom of language, patchwork of memories, and I can offer a list as long in Spanish. It's the artist's prerogative to claim part of a reality and transform it. Pattern is very much part of the language of textiles, and motifs are the words and letters of that language. My research led me to develop an alphabet inspired in my knowledge of traditional calligraphy, drawing visual elements or borrowing elements from Chabin motifs. In this system, I combine usual and Gothic letterform structures with gestures from copperplate script or humanists reinterpreting textile patterns as living letters. Since I'm the creator, I have the freedom to choose, having at my disposal the repertoire of forms and symbols in the whole history of writing. So there you can see how I depict the shapes based on the structure, on their structure, from alphabets of all sorts of styles. In the same way we work when doing experiment calligraphy, we first design the character, maybe more than one shape for each letter. Then we write a word, then a line, and finally the text. And maybe later we could add some color. This is just like a progression of the original textile, the alphabet I created, the textile I wrote, and then I just did a little bit of coloring, and eventually I turned this into an art piece. And let me share with you, okay, not now, the next one. When this step is over, maybe we could try using different tools. Like in this case, I worked with a shorter text to try a speedball B. Here you can see this is speedball B and this is a pointed knee. So two variations of the same, on the same, two different tools for the same text. And then adding other techniques borrowed from the textile arts like embroidery. Here the text reads, "The space of a crack is enough for life to be reborn," from Ernesto Sábato, an Argentine writer and Nobel Peace awarded writer. If we like what is happening, then we may venture into a whole project. In this case, I wrote a poem comparing people to rivers. And let me read it so that you can fully understand the idea. So the text says, "Sometimes it flows like a river, crystal clear and pure in the morning. Others, it is stormy, stones and swells. There are rivers that come from who knows where. In their courses, they carry stories, smiles and songs. Others, rubble, corpse and carrion. There are stormy people, others, sunrises. There are gestures that are fire, others, a warm winter sun. The river is always the river. Sometimes it goes down singing, whispering old couplets. Others it shouts, and in a desperate scream it falls off the cliff. Perhaps, like rivers, let us be little moons and bits of sun as well. a drop of poison and another of dew. Maybe we are one and all rivers. So that's the text written in this artwork. The text was written with white gouache on top of, let's say, a piece of paper that had been a discard piece from another workshop of mixed media on paper. So actually, this paper was not created for this work. It was used in this work, but it was reused from, it was a remainder, a leftover. And so I wrote the text, and where the paper had some stains, like here, I drew a koi fish to hide the stain. I turned this piece into a book, and for the covers of the book, I depicted the circular shapes of the letters from the last page and did laser cutting to introduce the watercolor. So here you can see these bubbles are here, are these bubbles, kind of. Using this same alphabet, but inspired by the colors of another antique textile from the Andes, I worked with Corcuera's text and added some paper embroidery. For this technique, you need to previously punch the holes in the paper to do the embroidery. So here you can see the original textile. The textile hangs together with the sheets of paper. And here you can see a detail with the embroidery. Woman's gaze was inspired by an unfinished sash. Since my aim was to finish it, I deliberately redesigned the alphabet to fit the shapes of the sash motif. And the text would say, woman's point of view, or its translation into Spanish, una mirada de mujer. Woman's gaze, or woman's point of view, would be the translation. Moving forward with the theme, I depict other textiles from the Moche culture, always from the Andes. This is just a scrap. You may see that the shapes of this man lifting his arms in an expression of prayer are captured in the drawings of the letters. The eye could be easily recognized as the O character, and his arms, so here you can see this is the eye, and here are his arms, could be N if you look it this way, or it could be an S if you look it sideways, or it could be a Z if you mirror it. If you apply design operations such as rotation or mirroring the images, then you find more than one letter. This could be an E, or this could be an M. When you have at least 2 or 3 letters, you can figure out the rest of the alphabet by following the calligraphy rules. This is a mantle from the Chancay culture. In the border, I immediately identified several letters, such as the B. So this is the mantle. And here I could see B, P, and A. With these 3 letters and following the calligraphic rules for Roman caps, I could design the missing letters of the alphabet. My last example is inspired by this unku. Unku is a ceremonial poncho. from the Mapuche culture. So this culture is from here, from Argentina. The alphabet, in this case, is inspired by the cattle brands or marks of the province of Buenos Aires. We are famous for our cattle, but our cattle is marked with kind of monograms or shapes or letters. In that is in those forms of letters from a register of the province of Buenos Aires, I find inspiration to create this alphabet. And just like the textiles, you can read, you could read the text from this side of the design, but as you keep on moving to the right, the message disappears. So we can't know exactly what the message is. So I'm not sure if this has any sense for you, but definitely the words from Ruth Corcuera have for me. Textile art will be the means to tell us, through colors and design, that the world can be read through symbols, as in a written text. In the great American cultures, these symbols were a kind of lingua franca and a major art, with many roles among them to express more than words can tell, as well as UN's questions about what would have happened if the Mayans had the time needed to turn their glyphs into cursive writing, have been a great inspiration and will keep me going and searching for many years to come. This is my curiosity, and this is all the things I can think about and will keep on thinking and will keep on working in the future. So thank you very much for um, for following me in this. But what I would like to do is, you may think that this is the result of an imaginative brain, but although that could be true, I find out through my teachings that this can be done by other calligraphers and artists. The starting point being a textile will expel a whole world of possibilities. Would you like to see some of these amazing alphabets from my students around the world? Because this is how we started with this symbiosis team this year.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this.
Marina, would you like to show the video that couldn't play earlier?
Oh yes, I will. I will show it after the because I don't have it opened. I have opened the next one, but I'll show you the video. Do you have any questions about what I have
We
talked
do
about?
we do have a few. Dr. Nan was asking, what kind of dyes were used for the textiles, and do you use these in your work?
Oh, they would use natural dyes. They would use plants and minerals and insects. And actually, no, I don't use those. I wish I could. It's just so complicated to produce them, and it's not easy in this environment and living within a city. If I would live in the Andes, in the mountains, probably I would have that knowledge and I would have the ability to recognize the plants and to go through the whole process, but not. It's not my expertise. Although I have taken courses on dyeing fibers, on doing pigments, I have a bit just the surface. I have only scratched the surface of that. It's an endless world of process and techniques and materials and totally different from what we actually use. You can't concentrate in the whole process. You can't produce the paper, the pigments, do the art, and sell it. It's too much.
That is true. I also have a question. For cultures that use textiles as language and storytelling, do they often have written records of all the symbols and things like that as well?
No,
No?
no, that's the problem. There was a guy called there was an Indian Spanish a mixture. He was a mestizo. I don't know what's the translation from that. It's a person born from a Spanish and a native, aboriginal native. Guaman Poma de Achala. And this guy would write a series of records about how the Spanish treated the Indians, not the Indians, the Aboriginal people, the natives. But when I showed the image about the guy, the emperor wearing a topak or tokapu or a poncho, those drawings belong to his narratives, his chronics. But there was no code at all. You couldn't, the Spanish couldn't, were not interested in the in the meaning of ponchos. They were not interested, and they couldn't understand the value of textiles. They thought gold and silver were much more valuable, so they didn't care. While the Andeans knew that that was a knowledge, they knew that information was more important than materials, but the Spanish did not. So they burned a lot of textiles, and many of the best textiles were kept for the for the for the for the funerals, for not for the funerals. I'm not expressing myself properly. Uh, Most of the nobility of the Inca Empire were wrapped on textiles when they died, and so just like the Egyptians would take their wealth and their treasures to their graves. Well, the same thing happened with the natives in America, and the best textiles were kept for the bodies to be wrapped around. And these textiles were so sophisticated that, for example, when we buy sheets, for example, bed sheets, and we love the Egyptian 180 threads or 300 threads, well, the Andeans had 6,000 threads. It is even difficult for now to reproduce those fabrics with the technology we have today, and they could do it with nothing, with like a loom that it was sticks in the ground, in the earth. So it is astonishing how they could manage to produce these unique pieces, but there is no they still haven't found like the Rosetta Stone. They haven't found that. There is no like Champollion would find the Rosetta Stone there. They would understand, because the Rosetta has the three languages, the hieroglyphs and two other languages. So that's how they could understand the same text through what was the translation. We don't have that, or maybe they still haven't found that. The thing is that here in America, we don't have the resources and the money needed to do all the excavations and all the studies and finding all these cities. But they say there are whole cities buried under the foliage and trees of the Amazon. So we have to unbury them to see what the culture is telling us, or their materials, their cities, their instruments would tell us, and probably their writing in other ways, which is not like literal, like we use in the Western world.
Thank you,
I'm
thank you.
sorry if I
And
answered that
yes,
question.
you have. And for you personally, it's a follow-up question. How do you start researching for, like, let's say a piece of textile? Like, how do you start researching about it? Through, do you go to a museum or how do you find more information about it?
I would say, like from the very beginning, something has to catch my eye. I feel, well, the principle of empathy, what I teach on calligraphy in Blossom. It's not just I'm interested in the textile. The textile is interested in me as well. There is a connection between the two of us in some way. And that is what takes me and my curiosity and keeps me going. And then I want to know more. And because I already see letters. That's the very first thing. I see shapes that resemble letters. When I see those shapes, I want to know more. And I have this like magical thinking that the textile is talking to me and that the message is hidden within the textile. And it is my, I don't know, my goal or my challenge to decipher that message. Although I know it's all full fiction from my own brain, but maybe that is also part of our culture, the literatura mágica, like magical literature, like, so many well-known writers like Isabel Allende from Chile or, wow, now I'm running out of names. It's so awful. Cien años de soledad, help me, Ana.
Gabriel García Márquez.
Gabriel García Márquez, and so many others. So going back, that is how I start. I am captured by the textile, and probably because of its beauty, the colors, the earthy colors. I love that color palette. Probably I have I have um, I have made that color palette mine in a way. And then okay, and then I start studying the textile, and I start figuring out where does it come from, what happened, how did it ended, what is the design, what is the motif. And but eventually I switch into calligraph and into the calligrapher um, person who I am, and start working with an alphabet.
Thanks, Marina. And actually, that's a great segue into the next question. And I was asking, on average, how long does it take for you to develop an idea into an artwork?
Mm, I can't say, because I work with many things at the same time. I'm not working with one project. I don't start a project and finish that project. I have like five things going on at the same time. When I get bored of one, I go to the other one. When I have to wait till this dries, not to mess it up, I go to another one, and then I do parts that are like handcraft, and parts that are more like meditation, and parts that are research. So there's a lot of things going on. But maybe if I have the materials, some ideas come really quickly, and I can do it in 3 days, a piece of art. And if I'm working on a series, probably I already know all the steps of the process, so I can work out really fast. I'm kind of a fast worker. I'm not precise. That makes me faster. I don't search for perfection. I don't I don't mind if a letter is not perfectly rounded, or if I don't know, if things are not precise and pristine and perfect and tidy. I mind about tidy and neat, but it's not my aim to have perfection. No.
So, if perfection is not your aim, then what's the most important thing about the artwork that you feel it must have?
Meaning, meaning. It needs to have meaning. It needs to tell a story. It needs to awake some emotion on the person who is watching. Like when you read the text, because I write the text my own, you understand what am I talking about. It's like having an artist standing beside the painting and explaining you what is the painting about. It still has not a unique meaning. What I like about it is that it is enough opened for people to engage with a piece and make the piece them, or understand the artwork by having some empathy, like feeling, having their own experience of let's say the theme I'm talking about. So yes, that's would be my answer. I really don't know if everybody can understand what I'm doing, but for me it does make sense, so that keeps me going.
Thanks, Marina. I don't think there are currently any other questions for the time being. Would you like to share your students' works?
Yes, I will. Okay, so here is. Okay. Can you see from textile to text?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, hold on. I have to go to the very beginning. So here you will see several images, and I would like to read this. Here, loom textiles are loaded with powerful meanings. Other hands have intervened them, dreamed about them, decided their form and function. They come to us through familiar routes, impossible paths, coincidences. We will take them with love and respect, and thinking about their first life, we will give them a second chance. We will give them a voice and an alphabet, transforming them into language, a new written language to express our feelings through text, a second life threaded with ours, revealing secrets and mysteries, talking about ourselves. And this is a text I wrote together with a friend, Marian Svik, which is a textile artist. So I'm going to go through some of them. Some of them have more meaning and are much more interesting than others, but just for you to see by using a recognizable alphabet, how the textile is such a strong inspiration. These are textiles from, I think it's somewhere in Africa. And here you can see the process of first coloring the textile and finding the motifs and trying to figure out the alphabet based on the shapes and of the designs. And sometimes it's more literal and others is less literal, but you can see the similarities. This is a textile from Paracas. It's an Andean textile that was used to inspire this alphabet. And this is also a textile from the Andes. And this, of course, is not. This is from, what's the period? From Frank Lloyd Wright's designs of vitrals or stained glass. And this is Maria Trott, here again, with her vest and the beautiful alphabet she designed. And from this shawl, you will see more than one alphabet designed. So here she's capturing the idea of weaving, horizontal and vertical. And here she's capturing the design on some other part of it. And here she's working on a piece of a tapestry. And this is a technique known as ikat. So the warp is wrapped so that when it is dyed, the dye won't, the color would not get into the wrapped parts of it. And this is Anne van Gentenrijk's project based on a tablecloth that she inherited from her mother or grandmother, I think. And from the same tablecloth, she figured out several alphabets. And here you can see the progression to make it less simpler and more complex. And astonishingly, she had created Kalyandra, which is her alphabet. And when we put side to side Kalyandra to the tablecloth, they were the same thing. So maybe the cloth was on her mind, on her unconscious mind, when she was thinking about her alphabet of Kalyandra. So that is how strong these images from childhood or early years of our life can stay in our mind and come up as art in the future. And this is a lady from Canada. She did a lot of works, and this is inspired on these textiles from the Aboriginals of Canada. And here she was telling me a story that just recently they had discovered a grave, a multiple grave with babies. And so she was very struck by that news, and she did this story. What you see is kind of a baby, but it's full of a message that I know because she told us, but of course it would be very difficult to read. She did a lot of work. This was done during COVID on an online workshop. At that time, we have the time to do so many things. And here there's another one, there's another alphabet based on another alphabet, which is very, very odd in a way. So this is more based on the Bauhaus textiles. And here you can see also two alphabets developed from this textile. One taking the leaves and the birds as inspiration, and the other one just taking strokes. When drawing, when reproducing the motifs of your textile, you become aware of the shapes that are involved. And then at the same time, letters are drawings. So you can understand the the similarities with motifs. This is also an ikat, and several variations of the representation of her alphabet, different alphabets. And in this case, this embroidery was done by Anne's mother. And so from that embroidery, which was the vest of or the top part of a dress, she figured out these alphabets. And then this is a handkerchief, the one on the top left corner. And from there, she figures out the whole alphabet. And what you see to the right, it's a piece of writing. This probably is a mola, the original piece. Anna, you worked with a mola. So here you can see just the beginning. This was a 2 days workshop, so but you can still see the inspiration and the colors and the shapes. And this alphabet is based on an Australian textile from the natives from Australia. And you can feel it as a bunch of motifs, but when you read underneath Australia or Swam, then you can identify those shapes as letters in the design. This is very complex. I think this is from Romania or somewhere like that. And this is again from Australia. That's the mountain. That's a representation of a mountain and a landscape. And these are the different steps of her process. And this is from Thailand or some Indonesia, someplace in Indonesia. And let's go to Africa, where their textiles are so graphic that you can instantly recognize letters. This is all the process from one student. Here you can read weaving words. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Sometimes the alphabet is more interesting than others, and sometimes the design or the art, the final art, is much more interesting. And here is with my same textile, this is a version from another student. So with the same original, we come up with different ideas. This is also a textile from the Andes. And you can see the many trials he did. And this is a textile from also Central Europe. Going back to Africa. All those things are letters. This is writing, this is writing, this is writing, this is writing. Okay, so you have a pretty good idea what you can do with the textile, don't you?
I think what's the most interesting is how you bring each student to make every work their own. the variety, the sheer variety of just even the choice of material, the experiment in the colors, the stories, everything is so different. But you bring them through the same process to make it their own. I think that stands out the most just from looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is the interesting part of it,
Mm.
because I see everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different textile. And if you switch from textile, you have another story. It's an endless process. You could be working with textiles for the rest of your life, getting inspiration from them. And I suppose that you could have the same process with nature and with so many things in life. But for me, textiles are we are, as soon as we are born, we are wrapped on a textile. And when we die, we are wrapped in a textile. So textiles are with us from the very beginning till the very last end. And so, and they are a way, I should read these words because I haven't read the whole text from Ruth Corcuera, but this is the whole text, and that is what touches me so much. Thousands of years ago, when only the voices recorded small and big events of everyday life, women would cover their newborn child in a wrap. In this, we see a space created between the mother's womb and the world outside. We believe textiles were born from such gestures, within the realm of feelings and from a woman's view, to protect, to give warmth, and to sustain life. In time, textile art will be the means to tell us, through color and design, that the world can be read through symbols, as in a written text. So that is what I have in mind always. This is one of the reasons we survive because of the textiles. They keep us warm, just like food and the rest of the things we need. Like it's a basic, very basic thing. So yeah, that's my story about the textiles, and I think everybody can relate to them because everybody dresses up, everybody depicts a jean, a dress, a scarf, and you have your favorite colors, and you have the colors that match your skin, and some of the colors you don't like them because why? Well, if you start doing the thinking, you will find a lot of questions and replies.
Thanks, Marina. Does anyone have any other questions or have anything that you would like to unmute and just say something? So the chat, we're all saying like we're all talking about how different pieces inspire us. And then there are quite a few that I think when you share the text that inspire you, it's actually very moving it adds a lot to every piece. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so there were responses to that too. Yeah. And Marina, can you show us your book? The first one you said you're going to show?
Okay, hold on. I
Yeah.
have to
Because when I
find.
just saw the image, I just really wanted to see the inside. Yeah.
Well, Marina,
Yes.
the book, I wanted to say something,
Hmm.
and it's that she was saying before that she doesn't look for perfection,
Hmm.
uh, but the meaning of whatever she's creating. Um, and I think she managed to how do you say, to make her students follow her path in that kind of way, because a textile can be something meaningless to someone and you can still do something with that, you know. However, I think many of the people that start doing her workshops and everything look for something that even when it apparently doesn't have a meaning, at the end it has a very deep connection with them, and they try to make, yeah, to like to put their feelings or some meaning at the in the artwork they are creating. and not looking for perfection, which is Marina was telling us. Is like, what are you looking for when you are creating this piece? What are the answers? What are you feeling? So I think that is very good that she managed to do that and leave perfection. That is something that in the calligraphy world is very important. You know, when you are writing an italic hand, you look to write a very good one. You're looking for to write a good one, not so it's kind of leaving that behind in making in make it more free in a kind of sense. um so yeah, I really like that about her way of working and how she managed to how do, I don't know, transmit that to her students.
Convey,
Yeah,
convey.
yeah,
Almost like as distilling the essence of a perspective, right? Even if the original doesn't have that same meaning, but the artist's eye, the artist's perspective comes through in the story at the end. Almost like that. Yeah. Thank you so
Okay,
much
I
for
can share
sharing.
the book, and hopefully, I don't know, the internet doesn't seem to be very stable, but let's see. Can you see live Hanami? Can you see
Yes,
the
yes, we
image?
can.
Marina. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, this is not the book. Sorry, I punched the wrong list. It's textile text, the one we want to see. Sorry. Here, this is the one. Can you see textile text? No. Can you see? You still see the previous one?
We
No,
see a,
it's
Like,
loading now.
yeah, it's loading.
Yeah.
it's loading. Okay, because you know you have to stop and then so now you see textile
Yes.
text.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So this book is called Textile Text. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The covers of this book are made with batik. That's the whole spread of the text. This will be the text that will go all along the book. So at the beginning of the book, it's a copy binding. You have the text in Spanish. Texto textil would be the translation. And at the beginning of the book, I depict all the empty space from the left side of the book. And the next sheet, the next double page, I would depict the text on the center of the book, of the spread, and depict the triangular shapes. And finally, I will depict what's left of the text. The funny thing is that when you design a book, you are always thinking on the spread, on the double pages. But then when doing the binding, you have to figure out what you're going to do at the back of those pages. So going back, what I thought about was keeping only with the circular shapes of letters. On the next page, I thought of keeping only the triangular shapes of letters, and that's what's left. And then on the last one, I just went for the game of the empty space. And then there's something going to happen because you see another color coming in. And there's some design, something that we don't know, but has some kind of design, which actually it's a textile. And so since it's a textile, it has web and wall. So I depict only the vertical and horizontal strokes of the letters. And then I blend those letters and strokes with the design. actually I do the cleaning, and this is only the wet. And finally, you can see the design in which I was inspired by. And so then I blend this design with my calligraphy, and I keep the colors of the textile, but start working on the empty space and do some columns. I do more columns, and then I spread those columns to create more space in between. And then I think, what about if instead of doing columns, I do horizontal lines? So I depict the space between horizontal lines. And what about if I think of the geometric shapes that lie underneath the letters? So I depict circles, triangles, and rectangles. And what about if I depict all the geometric shapes, but what would be the easiest one, the simplest one, the circle? So that's the circles, and then all of them. All the process is done with walnut ink and hints of watercolor. And by the end, the color form, the text in English, and this book was half done in Ushuaia, the most southern city of the American continent, while my family was skiing, and here in Buenos Aires. So that's Corcuera's text.
Thanks, Marina. That was beautiful.
Have I got? May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
When you're constructing the book like that, are you working on both sides of the paper and planning the sequence and where you're putting those pieces on the pages?
So when I'm working on that book, I'm doing the double sheet, the front sheet. But then I have to figure out, when doing the folding, what am I going to do on the reverse of those sheets?
Yes.
So then first I'm doing the front sheet. And then when I have to put it together, I figure out what am I going to do on the back. And that is what it takes me what to do at the back. The order of the previous image and the next image, or what is the story I'm trying to tell.
And so, are you working on both sides of the paper when you're putting the images on the paper? Is it one sheet of paper?
It's one sheet of paper.
So you have your double spread, and then you're working on the other side, on the left-hand side. So you've got another double spread following it. So you've got to coincide the back side of that double spread with this one.
Yes, exactly. And then I'm working on that. But first I will make the front pages, the ones that are folded. And then when every front is made, I will find the link. Something that has to do with those pages that are going to connect, because that is what I need to cover, the back side of those pages.
So what weight is the paper, and what type of paper are you using, Marina?
I'm using Reeves BFK, 300 grams. So it is a very heavy paper, but it is wonderful. It can hold water lovely. It doesn't affect the structure of the paper. And you can use also the nibs and brushes. It's perfect. It's the same paper Brody uses.
Yeah, is that 300 grams, did you say?
Yeah, 140 pounds. No, pounds, did you say? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's a very good paper. And you can do whatever. The paper of the rivers, the poem, is also the same one. And you can put it under the sink you have colored it. It's fabric because it's 100% cotton. So you
Yeah.
can put it under the tab and rub it and with a brush to get rid of the painting, and you can work on that on top again and again and again. It's really very good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Very
Beautiful.
good.
And what sizes does it come in, Marina?
Well, it's you have, I think, 76 by 56 is the average size, but I think they have it in different weights, because I think Yukimi was using one of 160 or something like that, lower or even 90 pounds. And there are bigger sheets as well. I do remember buying last year bigger sheets, and I had to cut them to bring them back home because I couldn't roll them and fit them on my suitcase. So there are sheets that probably measure a meter by 70 or something around that.
Hey, Marina, just to update,
Thank
because
you.
it's
Thank you
15
for that.
minutes. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, it's 15 minutes past the hour. So
Yes.
what I'm going to
Okay.
do is I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can still continue the chat if you have any other questions, but I'll stop the recording first, yeah?